So I got some news from one of my buddies today, and he said that he had to postpone a webinar. This webinar was meant to go out today, and he's had to push it back to Friday. And that's not such a big deal. You know, it's not much a big deal, but it does raise a question in a prospect's mind about, oh, hey, you promoted the webinar. Why is it getting delayed? And if that's your front end experience, then what's going to happen in the back end? Now, it wasn't possible to not do this. It had to be delayed. It just wasn't ready. And it might have seemed relatively easy to just say a couple of words. Hey, let's do a webinar. Let's do a webinar. 4 words, pretty impressive, like doesn't take much effort. But when you break down what is involved in a webinar, suddenly you find that those 4 words rapidly expands into a large amount of work. And my buddy's done a bunch before. Like, this isn't his first webinar. He knows that there is a lot of work. But what is interesting is when you don't have all of the steps laid out, all of the processes laid out, then it's really easy for my mind and his mind and your mind to start skipping whole sections of work. And this is why it was targeted for release, and suddenly that release date got missed. This happens all the time in life and in business. People say, hey, it's going to be done by now. And what is going on? Is it just that we're all horrific procrastinators? Or could it be, just like my friend, that let's do a webinar actually gets underestimated because the amount of work that is required to generate that webinar gets forgotten about? Like, it's like, okay, when I think of a webinar, I'm thinking, yep, I've got to have some slides. But even to create the slides, well, you're going to have some messaging for that. So you need messaging. What's going to go into these slides? And who's this for? Like, who's the avatar? Who's the target that this webinar is designed for? And even say, let's say that you get your slides done. Well, now you've got a whole nother host of problems in terms of, well, how are we going to host it? What technology? Yes, Zoom is great. Zoom does that. So you're like, okay, great. But we've got to get people there. So how do we get people there? Oh, okay, hang on. We're going to need a landing page. We're going to need some ads. And we know that a lot of people don't show up if I don't remind them. So now I'm going to need an email campaign. And then when we run the webinar and some people buy, but some people won't, and some people didn't even show up. So what are our backup systems there? What's that email campaigns there? What are the pages there? Have we checked the checkout page? Does the thank you page work? And it's like, oh, hang on. That's a lot of work. And in that work, things get missed, things get forgotten about, things don't get tested. And so there is a error rate that occurs. I see it quite frequently in terms of people saying, hey, we got the link wrong. Got the link wrong. I'm like, okay, well, that means that you're not testing your emails. Or more likely, you don't have a process that says test every email. Somebody other than you has to read the email and click all the links and make sure they go to the right place. And the only way to make this consistently happen is by having it written down in a process, and then the tricky step, getting your people to use that process. If you're interested in working out how to get this to happen naturally, so your people actually are grateful to have the processes and to use them, head over to systemio.dev. Hope you took some lessons from today. Have you had this experience? Have you run into the problem of the idea of completing the work and the actual implementation of the work being 2 very different experiences? All right. Hope you enjoyed today. I certainly enjoyed making it for you. And as we continue to explore how systems create results, look forward to seeing you on tomorrow's episode as we continue this journey further. See you then.